I made a place like this, a middle perch on the internet. I think society has changed since Facebook, in a super specific way. And today we're gonna talk about that. And I also have grown and changed. I used to say that, I'm a being of the aircraft. Like, there's people from India, like me. I was born in India, and there's people from the United States of America, born Americans who are naturalized Americans. Like me, I'm an American, And there are people from France and from Mexico and from Russia, people from Japan and Brazil. And I'm not from anywhere. I'm from the aircraft that travels between nations, or the train that takes you across borders, or the boat that sails you from one environment to the other. I'm a creature of the craft. This happened because, I was a little kid. My parents took me around the world, and as a result, I traveled very early, like when I was 2 years old, and then I went traveling around the world several more times, right? Like, I did it on my own dime and started to explore places and started to see the commonalities between people. And so I stopped seeing myself as either Indian or American, and I started to see myself much more as a human being. I had a lot more in common with the Chinese than I ever thought was possible when I went over there and spent a couple of years among them. Same in Japan, the same in Portugal, the same in Ecuador or Mexico or any of the places I've been. Give me enough time, and I will find that the commonality between us as human beings. A thing that I think any traveler learns if they do it long enough, and which has been the center of a lot of the works I've made and a lot of the ideas I've put out there. And I was thinking about how we have a comment around here that one of our followers really likes, that I'm always quoting, and how it fits into this social media definition of the world we live in. I made this middle perch because I felt, disgusted by the direction that social media has now taken the dialogue. I don't feel that people are actually gaining from that. It's creating echo chambers and so on. And while I've grown and changed as a traveler, the social media generation of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and now TikTok arose to dominate the internet out of a field littered with disposable versions and iterations, MySpace, Vine, and things that fight to stay alive by transforming themselves, SoundCloud, and things that kind of died out but still exist. And so there's a group that sticks with them, like Vimeo, or it's a crazy universe. And within it, you cannot be too threatening. You cannot speak outside the boundaries. I was thinking about that, how we've created a social media universe. And to be an American now, you have to be an American the way they are on social media, where the level of sort of intersection is totally different from the way I intersect at the bus stop or at the grocery store or at the coffee shop or at the bar. And then I was thinking about that Octavio Paz quote that we're always talking about from The Labyrinth of Solitude. Paz, of course, Mexico's first Nobel Prize laureate for literature. He wrote that, quote, the North American, this is a book about the differences between the Mexican and the North American in many ways, but it's about everything really in the universe. And he wrote that, quote, the North American substitutes social truth for real truth, which is always disagreeable, close quote. The North American substitutes social truth for real truth, which is always disagreeable, close quote. And suddenly I started thinking, wow, the whole thing that is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok is the social truth. You can't say certain things there because of the self-censorship that's a direct result of how that world exists. And then I started thinking, okay, well, now let's talk about how we got here using our parallel history that we discuss here on this show all the time. The millennium starts with Orwell and then Huxley. That was the thesis we tossed out. The Orwell era is the authoritarian clapback against the attacks that Bush and Cheney author with Rumsfeld and Ashcroft. The complete violation of our rights, Patriot Acts 1 and 2, the FISA, the total surveillance, the fact that Snowden completely came out and said, wait, dude, they're just running with it now because they have carte blanche and license to do so and no one's going to stop them. That was the Orwell, the Orwell authoritarian thing that created the world in which everybody can be spied on by their phones, everybody can be spied on by and then you hitchhike onto that, the transition of the mobile era, which happens under Obama, which is the softer face, but still conducting the foreign war, still bombing with drones, still doing Guantanamo, still doing all the things. But the softer face side of it is that it gives you this, hey, social media, I'm hip, I'm on it too. And social media becomes the soma of Huxley. So the Orwellian beginning through the transmutation of a young president who's on the ride of the social media and his wife becomes the narrative of the social media world we all live in now. Jimmy Fallon is soft and da-da-da-da. David Letterman was cynical, but now we move into a thing where you kind of can't do that, right? And the soma is sort of that world. And how it happened in that way, that the social media era happens under Obama, is specific in a way. It times out hand in glove. And then comes the radical problem that the social media and creating that social truth is an insanity. You can't do that and conduct an election in the field of social truths. You have to conduct an election in the field of real truths. And so the social media created self-censorship. This is the oppressed, us, taking away our own ability to think critically or to offer alternative ideas which may not be popular in social media except in echo chambers where they just stay. And that brings us all the way back to the Federalist Papers, when Madison, I think it's in number 10, states that this why won't we have a problem with this voting thing? Well, because we'll keep everybody fractionalized, right? So the very fact that there's so much of it will prevent them from kind of functioning in a way, right? So that's what happens to all of our thoughts and opinions in this social media world. We've censored ourselves because of the rules of that world, and we're not having actual dialogue because we group together in these areas that are echo chambers. The collision between the few who do attempt to cross is filled with two types. One type is a type like myself who's hoping to create a middle perch wherein we can talk rationally and try to create bonds between ourselves as Americans. And the other is spies and or runners who just want to run over there and create havoc and run back, or create dialogue through a kind of constant memeing sarcasm, or straight lies, actually.